lost private. We're in Normandy.
Thanks for checking in here at the We're Not Lost Private podcast. We appreciate all your support. But do you know how else you can support us? By signing up at Patreon. For $3 a month, you'll have access to all of our episodes, plus access to all kinds of bonus material, like our quarterly newsletter, photographs and official paperwork, and research that goes into each and every show. You can follow the pod on a multitude of platforms such as YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, pretty much anywhere you catch your pods. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon. Bye. Hello, everyone from beautiful Cetingrad, Croatia. My wife and I arrived the other day, and we were just sitting down, relaxing with my in-laws, and we started talking about all the conflicts in this particular part of the world. And interestingly, my father-in-law said to me, "I was 2 when the war ended, but my mother told me during the war, several American flyers had been shot down and landed in this area." And we were amazed at this. And then he went on to say one of them was African American. So my wife and I did a little internet sleuthing, and we found out that the one airman that was shot down and landed near here was a Tuskegee Airman by the name of Robert L. Martin. His nickname was Fox, and Fox Martin was born in 1918 in Iowa. He got bit by the flying bug early on in his life. He was able to get his pilot license, and then went down to Tuskegee, where he graduated in January of 1944. From there, he shipped overseas, and he was based at Ramitelli, like with the rest of the 100th Fighter Squadron of the 332nd Fighter Group. And from there, he flew 63 missions without incident. And over the course of the war, he was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, Purple Heart, and a number of other awards. But what was most interesting was on his 64th mission, he and his wingman, Alfonso Simmons, they were ordered to fly up through Slovenia and into Austria to shoot up rail yards. Along the way, they were flying along, and they spotted a couple of enemy planes parked on a dirt airstrip, and the pair decided they were going to go shoot them up because it was better to get credit for aircraft even if they were on the ground versus shooting up a railway. So they swung back around, and over the course of that time, Simmons was hit, and his plane crashed, and he was killed. And Martin was hit, but he managed to nurse his plane back into this area, of which is now Croatia. But back then, it was the Republic of Yugoslavia, which was made up of several different countries. And the Allied airplanners had set up that area as a place where airmen whose aircraft were stricken and couldn't make it all the way back to their home bases could bail out in somewhat friendly territory. And the Army Air Forces had been dropping supplies to Tito's partisans to help keep them supplied, but part of that agreement was that they would assist U.S. flyers if they were shot down. Martin came down in a little village about 8 miles away from here called Cetingrad. And a little bit later, we're going to go up there to Cetingrad, near the church in the center of town, and we're going to record the second part of this video. But suffice it to say, Martin bailed out in that area, and we're gonna tell the rest of the story, which is very interesting when we get over there. I hope you keep following along. Thanks. Here we are in Cetingrad. This is the area behind the church in the center of town, and this probably would have been the area where Robert Martin landed after he was shot down. But you can see the beautiful terrain. I'm going to focus in all the way out. The rolling hills, all the trees, the valleys in there. Some of these houses are obviously new in the area, but I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous in this neck of the woods. And this is a prairie where it would have come down and was helped by the local villagers. So on the 3rd of March 1945, Robert Martin was tasked to go out on his 64th mission. And again, I talked about this in the previous clip. He was flying with his wingman, Alfonso Simmons. And the two were detailed to fly up towards Slovenia and into Austria to target German-held rail yards. Along the way, they spotted a small dirt airfield with a couple of aircraft on it, and the pair decided to shoot those up, thinking you'll get more credit for a plane kill than a railway kill. So the two of them swept in on the airfield, and they began to shoot up the two aircraft. And they noticed that there were little puffs of smoke going around them, which ended up being flak. Simmons' aircraft was hit, and he unfortunately perished when his aircraft hit the ground, but Martin was able to nurse his aircraft back through the corridors that they had been briefed, the air corridors that they had been briefed, which included areas through then Yugoslavia, now Croatia, here over the town of Cetingrad. Now, when Martin bailed out, his parachute injured his chin as it came out, and he also injured his knee when he landed. And what he noticed was, as he was getting out of his parachute, or attempting to get out of his parachute, with some difficulty because of the knee injury, he noticed a local farmer sprinted out of his house and came down to him. Now, they didn't speak the same language, obviously. The farmer managed to help him out of his parachute, but when he went to walk with him, the farmer noticed that his knee was injured, and so he carried him piggyback style back to his farmhouse. And he opened up the door, and the lady of the house saw him coming in, decided to start making up the bed for Martin so he could rest. Through the use of sign language, they managed to get an understanding of what each other wanted to do. The farmer and his wife wanted to feed Martin, and Martin wasn't hungry, but he was thirsty. So he made the sign language for drink, and they brought him the local alcohol, rakia. It's made out of plum. It's plum brandy, very powerful. And Martin said, oh, I started feeling really good after that. So later on during his time in the city, before Tito's partisans were able to repatriate him, the locals kept shuttling him from house to house. Finally, on a Sunday, they brought him to this church for Mass. Now, this church isn't the one that was here in 1945 when Martin was shot down. During the Balkan Civil War, this church was destroyed to the ground and later on rebuilt. But this was where the church was located, where Martin was brought for Mass. He and two other American flyers, two white flyers. I haven't been able to identify them yet, but that's a story for another episode. But for now, so Martin gets shuttled around for about 5 weeks before Tito's partisans are able to repatriate him back to the U.S. forces. So he's repatriated finally after VE Day. And after the war, he's later on brought back to the States, promoted to captain. He's awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, a Purple Heart for his injuries, an Air Medal with 6 oak leaf clusters, and later on, he's also awarded the Congressional Gold Medal for Freedom as part of the Tuskegee Airman contingent. He went back to Iowa and used his education as an electrical engineer, but at first he couldn't find work. So he started driving a taxi for a living until he was able to finally get on with the city where he lived as an electrical engineer. And he lived there for the rest of his life. He married his wife and he raised 4 children. And in 2018, he eventually passed away due to pneumonia. He was later on honored in his hometown, the local airport, and I believe it's Tuskegee, where they named a terminal in the airport after him. But I just thought it was an amazing piece of coincidence to be here in this little neck of the woods in Croatia and find a story of this Tuskegee Airman. And all of it is just centered around this small area, including this church. So thanks for catching up with us, and I'll see you in the next one.